welcome to episode number 500 of your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast. I'm Daniel, and today we have the most hosts that we've had on the show in the past. I think not including Comic-Con, because Comic-Con one day we had the crew to Comic Book Men on, but that was 4 or 5 years ago. This week we have our all-star co-hosts on here, the ones that were able to make it on. I invited all of them on. If we could have had all 8, 9 of them, great. But these following co-hosts were generous enough to take some time out of their night this week. And the first one, it is Macio, who picked out the slot, and it would have been his week. So Macio, thank you for being on for episode 500.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Y'all already know the vibes, bro. Cats. Back to murder on Twitter. Fuck with me.
And we also have from the Exiles Network and also from this very podcast and the Ronin console, it's Millennial Mike.
Hey guys. The most hosts to roast Disney shills.
Love it.
I got them fire, spitting that fire.
I'm looking forward to it, especially with this week's news. And we also have Bobby, also a longtime Brocat Core member and a huge supporter of the podcast. Welcome on, Bobby.
Hello. Thank you, Daniel. Welcome, Brocats. And let's celebrate 500. This is going to be a fun one. Hope everybody enjoys it.
Finally, we have PALPAKELLI, who is going to try to be on in this episode. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties as far as recording under the same roof, but she is in progress.
I think I got it to work.
Oh, there
Can you
she
hear me
is.
now?
Holy shit.
Huh? Surprise.
Just in time.
So, hey, everyone. PALPAKELLI, one of the original hosts on the show. So excited to be back for number 500. This is wild. Ooh, sorry if you heard my email.
500 episodes, halfway to 1,000, almost 10 years. We're going to be celebrating 10 years in September of the podcast. But to anyone, if this is your first episode, if you haven't heard the previous 499, the way the show works is we go through a bulk of news. And this week, we also have a larger Brocat block, which is going to involve, since we do have some very specialized co-hosts on here that have worked in retail, that do work in retail, and also food and beverage. We're going to have retail stories in the Brocat block, which is basically what's been going on since you last heard us. The more personal side of the podcast where you get to know all of your hosts a little bit better. And this is going to be a little bit of a looser format since it is episode 500 and we do have more hosts on here. So everyone's going to be jumping in as soon as they have an opinion or a thought, because otherwise we may not get our thoughts in. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 500. During the Real Deal Xbox podcast, industry analyst Michael Pachter said he believes PlayStation is already knocking at death's door. He said, quote, "I think PlayStation is doomed, and I think they're going to cease to exist as we know them in about 10 years. They can't compete. They have no chance of competing." He went on to say that Xbox Game Pass is Microsoft's meal ticket, and the extensive variety of content makes it more lucrative than what PlayStation is offering. Michael Pachter is a very smart dude. Do you think he is right and what we're going to see in 10 years?
That's a hot take.
I think that he is right, and this is why.
Thank you.
I think he's right. Well, this is the thing. I think it's, obviously this is all puffery is what this really is, but yeah, PlayStation is going to die, and as the brand that we know it as, Microsoft has also died, and as the company that we knew it. Microsoft, has their new Game Pass. PlayStation will probably also do something different. It'll probably look different. I imagine one day both of these companies won't have any physical hardware devices, or if they do, it'll be like some kind of streaming device. It'll be built into your TV or an app or something like that. I think that this is kind of like a big nothing burger, to be honest. But yeah, I do think that PlayStation will die as we know it and become something else.
You're supposed to get Spartacus this year too, so that we have yet to see what Sony's going to do, because they're supposed to have that competitive to Game Pass.
It's like a lesser Game Pass.
We don't know. We know nothing about it. We know it's a tier system.
Dan's looking in his financial future. He's like, I see the stocks on PlayStation plummeting.
Yeah, Sony stocks are plummeting and Microsoft is to the moon.
Dude, come on, man, listen. In 2004, Michael Pachter said in the height of fucking World of Warcraft that PC gaming was going to die. This is what we're talking about. A guy that said PC gaming was going to die, and now it's bigger than ever. It's probably the most popular way to play games besides on your phone.
Well, Michael
This man
Pachter
saying PlayStation is going to die in 10 years. He said we weren't even going to get new consoles this generation.
That's true. He did say
That's
that.
true.
But he's got way more hits though than.
He went from 2004. We're not going to PC game anymore to like in 2016 saying that we're all going to be on games. There's no more console. Like the man is wrong so many times.
But he's right so many
saying
more times.
10 years, we're not going to, the PlayStation ain't going to exist.
That's funny.
Come on, man. Come on, man. It's going to exist, bro. It might not be a physical console, but the brand is alive and well, bro. It's never been, PlayStation's never been hotter.
That's true.
I'm a huge Game Pass advocate, and I still call bullshit on what he's saying. That's really harsh what he's saying.
It does sound like he's putting all his chips in Game Pass being the future of gaming is kind of what he's implying here, and that Xbox already has a full head start on it. And I think he's right on that.
He's also implying that it can't be done any better, and that the only competition doesn't have the infrastructure, the desire, the will, the player base, the money to make any kind of competition. So like, okay, the idea is, okay, Xbox has their Game Pass. I mean, it's very like consumer friendly. The idea is that, you don't need any physical device. You can use the device that you already have. You can play a bunch of different games. Granted, if you want to play those games, there's one low monthly cost. That's a great idea. The only thing that really separates PlayStation and whatever they might choose to do and Microsoft with Game Pass is that PlayStation is going to have their own games that are going to be exclusive to its Game Pass. So I don't know. I don't really see why PlayStation couldn't do it. I mean, it isn't. I'm not necessarily like a big PlayStation shill anymore. I'm more of a PC guy. If Game Pass had the games that I wanted to play, I would absolutely do it. But I haven't really seen a lot of games that I wanted to play on there yet.
The problem I have with this thought process is that like he's just going ahead and putting the crown on Microsoft and saying they're going to be up, PlayStation's going to be down. When we literally seen every generation, one of the big three shoot themselves in the foot. Nintendo did it with the Wii U. They shot themselves in the foot. It was a failure. Sony did it with the PlayStation 3 and gave Microsoft in with the 360 when the PS3 failed over on the West side. Everywhere else in Europe and in Japan, it was up. But over here in America, the 360 took it hands down. And that's what gave Microsoft the in. And then Microsoft shot themselves in the foot with the Xbox One. We don't know who's going to shoot themselves in the foot. So far, it looks pretty even with Microsoft kind of up with the Game Pass shit. But like just to sit there and be like, oh, Microsoft's just going to take it and run with it for in the next 10 years to the point where PlayStation goes down is a crazy statement.
It's a big underdog story. I mean, I like an underdog story like anyone else because Microsoft has always been, I think, kind of like
call Microsoft an underdog.
Well, I mean,
Microsoft is like only under like Google, Apple, and Facebook.
Well, I think he's talking about the gaming market, right?
Yeah, within the gaming market, it's always seemed to be that amongst the three, PlayStation never really felt like it was struggling to prove itself. Microsoft always felt like, yeah, they might have edged out one year or one generation, but it always felt as though they were always fighting to get the lead. And whenever they may have gotten the lead, it always kind of flipped back over to Sony. Like Sony was kind of just waiting, biding their time to play their exclusives, they're really good at marketing. They've always kind of, I think, had the upper hand. Not that, once again, I am a little bit biased because I always have been a PlayStation guy mainly. But that's kind of always been my perspective of the situation. And I think that, to see like Xbox made this big comeback from, the Xbox One to being like the only existing console in the next 10 years that's a pretty provocative and exciting story, so I'm sure it'll get some clicks, but I mean, in reality, probably not.
You also have to keep in mind, Microsoft just picked up, pending approval, Activision in Bethesda, and those are
Blizzard.
Giant, massive. Oh, I'm sorry, not Bethesda. Blizzard, that's what I meant. Massive IPs all on computer, with the exception of like Call of Duty. So there's massive computer or PC games are going to come across later on and we don't know how that's going to be delivered. They may not use Game Pass for those games. They might be their own service through PC, not necessarily PC Game Pass. So there's some information we don't know yet because of that, but that doesn't mean it's going to kill PlayStation. And like what Mace was saying with, other companies shooting themselves in the feet, this is very true. Like right now, Nintendo's shooting themselves in the foot because they were supposed to release, we know this now due to evidence, they were supposed to release a new Switch, like an actual, like a Switch Pro, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it. They couldn't do it because the microchip problem with the pandemic. So what they did was they compromised, and we got the LED
OLED,
screen without the guts. So we got the OLED, but without upgraded guts because it's not available. So they went and processed what they had to get a new system out there. It's still making them a tons of money, but now they're behind one console because of that. You got to imagine the games that are going to suffer going forward for the next few years because in theory, the games they're developing were supposed to be on that new system. A perfect example of that is probably Metroid 4, as well as the new not Wind Waker, Jesus.
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid 4, I guarantee the dev kits they had were for some new Nintendo software that we don't have. And we're missing that now because it's OLED. I know it's a side tangent, but it's easy to say, but it's easy to say like Sony's dead. Yeah, Sony just hasn't responded to Game Pass yet. And yes, this is an Xbox podcast. So they, like Millennial Mike said, that it is some puffery because they're gloating, which they should. Microsoft, Xbox has every reason to gloat and do it, and because they're buying up IPs and it's working.
And they're fans too. I mean, obviously, that's what we do with Snyder. Like whenever there's a positive thing with DC or Snyderverse, whatever, even if it's not true, we advertise it. We're not trying to be, integral. We're just trying to push our stuff. So yeah, I get it. I mean, like the fans should take the win, take the victory lap or whatever. Enjoy your in game. But I think that
that competition's coming because Sony's going to release that Spartacus. Whatever, it's the code name. But whenever they release that, it's going to come out. Whether we like it or it's good for that matter, that's a whole different story. But it looks like it's going to be a 3-tiered system. We already know that Crunchyroll is going to be rolled up in it because they've already gone through consolidation. We lost Verve.
And Discord is also in...
Discord's partnership with there too. So we might get some interesting things because of that. Is it going to be as good as Game Pass? Who knows? Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's better because of the tiered system. And
probably worse.
Maybe they're probably not going to have a huge library. I mean, Microsoft's been buying up things like crazy. So their library is huge, obviously. So it's easy to say looking in like, oh, Sony's behind. Sure they are. I mean, they're working on their things too. So there's a possibility that there'll be even competitive markets for both of them. It's just that Sony's just starting.
At this point, it looks like this damn generation is going to be 10 years. If we can,
it's going to be a long one.
Yeah,
this pandemic.
I can't say it down. In 10 years, fucking Sony is just going to be dead in the water and only selling cameras. They can't even. Microsoft can't sell any series consoles besides the Series S because they just pump those shits out.
Yeah,
and then on PlayStation side, they can't make shit.
Nope.
Like I seen a report, like they only sold like 10K consoles last month. Like they literally can't produce. At this point, we should just not even worry about 10 years in the future. Who gives a shit? Let's see what Microsoft's going to do with Activision Blizzard. Sony's got a shit ton of exclusives coming out.
And plus, they just picked up...
Sony should be focusing on
Bungie.
What they're doing with the PC and getting more of their games onto PC faster instead of this whole like wait a year and a half type shit.
Well, even that Bungie pickup was terrible. Even Michael Pachter was also saying, he was like, they way overpaid for that shit. I don't know what they were buying with that Bungie deal. Scott and I were talking about that.
They had 600,000 people playing that shit on launch.
Are you talking about Destiny?
Like concurrent, yeah. And I think they ended up breaking 1 million at one point. Like a lot of people play Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny's huge.
I thought it was in the water until they came out. I was like, okay, well, Sony knows a lot. I mean, they got to look at the financials. I think they said they was making like $1 billion a year.
Yeah. Destiny had a problem. Destiny had a big problem when Activision picked it up. And now that's where it got wronged. But the second that they splintered off of Activision and Bungie self-developed, the game got better. So every expansion after that, since Bungie took it back, has been progressively better. And then the Witch Queen now is the best one we've had in like over 2 years. That was part of the mistake, was Activision buying them. It just didn't work out. So when they splintered off, their player base went back up, and of course their earnings went up. So Sony got a good deal. I shouldn't say good deal because we don't know the financial disaster that could create, but it's a good IP for them to pick up. Their reasoning, they say, is to increase their online and broaden their horizons with that. Sure, that's probably a possibility because Bungie's been doing this since Halo back in the day. I think it's a good pickup. And yes, I'm saying this biased because I play Destiny, but Destiny is very popular and there's a huge player base that plays it.
Yeah. I'm not actually a big fan of that. Well, I played the first and the second. To me, I mean, I'm not going to list all my specific grievances with it. It gets a little bit boring for a few different reasons, in my opinion. But the quality of the game is no doubt very high. It's a very polished, nice looking game. It runs really well online. Like it's just super smooth. Everything works great. And I have some friends who really, really love the game. The PvE is just massively, grinding for weapons and stuff. People like to do that. So it has a lot of staying power. I think that it's a very strong franchise for sure. So, I think that was a good pick as well, in my opinion.
Well, I am rooting for the underdog that is Microsoft. I agree, Millennial Mike. And I believe in 10 years, again, Michael Pachter, I listen to him every week on his Pachter Factor podcast, and he's got some really good insights into the gaming world, and hopefully this one comes to fruition as well. And like you said, he's been wrong several times, but when I hear him every week, he's constantly like, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. But this is, it's a long play, and I really do hope it turns out, and that Xbox is able to top out there, and for PC gamers too. PC gamers like Millennial Mike. So there we go. And we will know more about the future of gaming, maybe through E3, maybe not. It has not been confirmed officially by E3 organizers, but emails sent to developers are saying the event will be held online for the second year running. While Sony did not take part in the E3 2021 ongoings and instead opted to hold its own showcase right around that time, others still announced their games and other updates through the E3 umbrella last year. Microsoft, Nintendo, Square Enix, other big companies were the headliners, and it still took place during the course of the E3 2021 schedule, but it doesn't look like it's happening physically this year either. I think it was Bobby that was saying this E3 is pretty much dead and we should look forward to Summer of Games, right?
Yeah. Whoever wants to bet me a chicken sandwich, I'm down, because there's not going to be an E3. There's going to be something that replaces E3, and the only thing that's on the schedule right now is unfortunately Jeff Keighley's Summer of Games. But you know what? The dude's got all the ears from all the companies, and it's working out. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we have to like it either, of course. We're not going to get an actual E3. That's not going to happen. Replacement, sure. ESA gave that up last year. So it's just not
go
going to happen.
Look at the flowers, bro.
I haven't even been really that invested in E3 the past few years, to be frank. I mean, I feel like it's been kind of, I don't know, and it kind of topped out. I can't really give you a particular year or whatnot. And then after that, I kind of just like, I would watch the stuff after the fact. I can't remember a time where I was like, recently where I was like really into the whole, watching it as it came out and whatnot. Like, as a matter of fact, I actually kind of preferred when Microsoft, I believe it was actually when Sony did their own thing, Nintendo does their own thing. I like when the companies do their own thing. I feel as though stuff doesn't get swept under the rug as much. It feels like, everything is kind of like on full display, in my opinion.
Nintendo's killing everybody. These online, the little treehouse, Nintendo treehouse shit. Mm-hmm. They're killing everybody. Everyone, Sony, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, whoever is doing these bum ass, boring, trash content. Need to watch the Nintendo shit. They just show you the game. Maybe they have a developer speak a little bit, but they just show you the game and then they go off. All of this shit with the fucking teaser trailers and oh man,
imagine Sony games with Nintendo presentations.
That's
so lit
to do.
Yeah.
They'll go up there. They have a fucking a whole orchestra and shit. Like nobody's trying to sit there and watch that, man. Like I don't know who it's for, because maybe if you're in the audience when they did the live event and you're at the audience, maybe that's a dope ass moment. But when you're sitting at the crib trying to watch it live, you're like, dude, where's the game?
That's why you watch it after. Yeah.
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 You know, like when you get used to seeing something like Nintendo, you could just turn it on. You could read later if you want and get the Cliff Notes version. You could watch a quick 30-second video that breaks down what was shown, but you can watch full gameplay. Like they'll say, hey, we're doing a Pokemon event, and they'll show 3 Pokemon games, and them bitches all coming out within a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also great too that Nintendo does that way because they probably only have maybe one game that's even worth bothering. So getting through it quicker is actually probably good for them.
And you know, the worst part about all this is, you know, we all enjoy E3, right? Over the course of our lives, it was like
Yeah.
the one time a year. It's like, this is amazing. This is really cool. We get to see all this new stuff that's coming up, plus the whole event, and you get to see the footage from it. Well, there's one key part. G4 went away. G4 came back late last year. So we're going to have an E3 this year with no and G4 is available.
Right.
And it's going to be weird. So I want to see what G4 does, because this is what there was a missing piece that we haven't had in like 10 years was G4, because they would be they were the way that we were able to see the show if we couldn't go. Besides like articles from IGN, like G4 just had 24/7 video coverage. It was amazing. So we got G4 back and we're going to lose E3. So I want to see what happens there, because we've got G4 ready to go to cover all that stuff. So do they pair up with Jeff Keighley? Is G4 maybe part of that partnership for the summer? Like,
I wonder, right? And I don't really have a leg in this race because I think I've watched some E3 one time and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I left. But do you feel, since this went away and like over the last 2 years, have we as like consumers just changed the way that we want information? And so the old things that we've been doing like E3 just aren't going to work anymore.
Yes. And that's exactly why it's been changing. The pandemic aside, pandemic kind of helped that death happen quicker, because that's why Sony had already splintered off, Nintendo splintered off, Square Enix splintered, like they weren't part of the E3 show anymore. They were doing their own thing. So E3 was already, the ESA organization was already dying off because all these major publishers were dropping off and not being part of their presentation cycle. So I think the pandemic escalated it, because last year was a perfect example where like 3 major companies attended and it was just nothing. Like it was like 3 days of nothingness. Coke Media was in it and something else.
At this point, it's actually better that E3 dies, because ESA can't get their shit together. They get hacked all the time. Like doing an event with ESA is like practically signing up your company to get fucking source code leaked and shit. Like just give it to Jeff, let's do his thing. Give him a couple games, maybe do your own conference. Like all these conferences, even if you look at like Apple with their like iPhone reviews,
the keynotes,
Samsung with their keynotes,
WWDC,
everybody's trying to condense and push through. Like normally on an iPhone keynote, they'll throw a graph up and they'll talk about the performance for like 10 minutes. Now they just say, hey, it's 2.5 times faster than the last one. Next slide. And they just go through it. They know that they're not trying to watch the whole thing anymore. It's not an event anymore. So they just try to breeze through. And now that I'm cool with ESA can die for all I care. Like they're terrible. They get hacked. They don't know how to run events. They used to have fucking chicks out there in bikinis
the booth
to show off a game, to show off Madden. Like that's the type of shit ESA was doing. So cool, get rid of them.
Well, don't forget, when they got rid of the booth babes and G4, it started dipping. So maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe Jeff Keighley brings back G4, brings back the booth
Dan
babes.
is a booth babe advocate.
Not necessarily, but it's like you got to look at the missing pieces here.
Booth babes?
I don't, but and also if
the slippery slope.
I sure hope not. I don't even know. I can assume what a booth babe is, but I'm glad I'm on this call for this. So great.
And Jeff Keighley can save E3, or well, he would do his own E3 at that point, like you guys were saying, and instead of keynotes, do the Keighley notes and call it a day. It would work.
Dude, Scott's listening to this and he's throwing up.
Scott's losing his mind. Yeah,
he's throwing stuff right now.
Yeah, he's triggered.
Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement. E3 is going the way of PlayStation, much quicker, of course. It sounds like.
Oh God.
And we got And this week, we also had Paramount Plus flexing its streaming muscles here as they dropped the Sonic 2 movie final trailer and also the Halo the series final trailer, both of which I think showcase to a lot of fans, both Sonic and Halo fans for the most part, that they are listening and they are very much making this as a sort of love letter to the games and to the fans themselves. And let's talk about Sonic 2 first, as right off the bat, the one thing I'm seeing shared on Twitter the most is that comparison with the movie poster, where it looks exactly like the Sonic 2 movie cover. And that alone, like, it blindsided Sonic fans, where I think they are 1,000% in, if they weren't already, after the first Sonic film. I'm
hyped. The first movie was stupid, but it was fun. This movie also looks stupid, and it looks even more fun. So I'm really excited about it. You know, it feels like stupid, but it knows that it's stupid, kind of thing, and it's almost as though it's supposed to be stupid. Like, I don't know. I always looked at Sonic and like as a character, because I've watched a lot of the cartoons. I love Sonic X. I watched a little bit of Sonic Boom. I played some of the Sonic games, not as much of a Sonic gamer, but I always like Sonic's very energetic, like childish, quippy kind of attitude. And I also really like how in this movie, they're making Knuckles like no nonsense. Like, he's zero. And then Idris also voice acting him is just, I really like that a lot. It makes me feel as though it's going to be, it's going to have some interesting back and forth between the two, and the action looks like it's even more ramped up too, which I think the first one could have used a lot more of. So it just seems like a better version of the first one. So I'm excited.
Kelli, Millennial Mike was calling Knuckles the Vegeta of the movie, it sounds like, from what we're seeing in the trailers.
He's
Vegeta's in this movie?
Knuckles is the Vegeta of Sonic.
All right. I'm gonna have to see. I mean, our kid wants to see it anyway, so I will be the judge of this.
Does him being voiced by Idris Elba make it more Vegeta or less Vegeta?
I don't know.
That's a weird question. I mean, I think so. I think Idris brings a certain degree of like kind of stoicness to but also like a certain level of aggression too, because he has he's very intimidating. Whenever Sonic says something, it's like kind of makes your eyes roll, but whenever he says something, it kind of makes you like lean in the front of your seat a little bit. So that mixture is so great. I love it.
Daniel, you know the main thing that Idris is going to say?
I don't want to hear it. It better not be in the movie.
You know the way.
Do you know the way?
If they put that in there, I'll be pissed, man.
Do you know the way?
Do you know the way? It's the way.
Like I heard they put in Sonic in the first movie, and they even put the drawing up and everything. So I'm sure they're going to have him say it at one point, even if it's like a serious line, and I'm going to fucking roll my eyes.
It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be hilarious. Also, the whole Dwayne thing got it was kind of controversial online for a minute. So I don't know. We could have some fun on Twitter for a minute, maybe. Who knows?
Like Kelli said, we are buying movie tickets to go see this. Leo saw the trailer on Hulu or something, and he was hooked. Like, he was like, I want to see that. It was on YouTube, actually. And we're like, all right, we're buying tickets. I was boycotting the first one, and now I get to go see Sonic 2. And I think it does look great. It looks like there's less of that, oh, the cartoon is lost in the real world. It sounds like they're more in Sonic's world this time, and they're kind of embracing that. And that's what I like to see. I don't want to see what they've done before in the Smurfs or recently with Tom and Jerry. I want to see an actual Sonic film that takes place in here. There'll probably be a stinger at the end where you get a glimpse at Shadow or someone else that they're going to introduce in Sonic 3. They're going to
imagine that. So much hype. Maria.
It's got to be Shadow, right?
Oh my god, I cannot wait. And the whole Shadow spin-off film that's going to come out.
He shows up with guns.
Boys. Yes.
They showed us Tails in the first one, so I guess they'll do that in the second one.
Oh my god, so hype.
Or Amy Rose. I don't know why we're overlooking her. I'm shocked.
With the hammer. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Halo the series final trailer also. Millennial Mike, you and I were just thrilled about this. It's still, these trailers still look like such high quality. The way that they are handling these TV shows, to me, they don't look like low budget shows. It seems like Paramount Plus is really injecting a lot of money into this.
Oh, big time. Yeah, I love the trailers, how they kind of have like the whispering voices, like It's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Like they have that whole kind of vibe throughout the entire trailer, and like the single piano, ding, ding.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a formula, but it works so well, and the visuals are incredible. It looks so cinematic. Like there's just one scene where they had Master Chief on the back of a truck from this really cool angle, like it's going really fast. You see the dust flying by, and it's like this POV angle. It's incredible. Yeah, it's oh my goodness. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I was, the first trailer dropped, and I thought it looked cool, and I was like, yeah, I'll wait for all the episodes to come out, and then I'll grab a month of Paramount Plus or some shit and watch it. And now I'm actually gonna get Paramount Plus and watch it all the way through, and then cancel after. They got me on this last trailer. It looks fucking good. The only gripe I have is the Master Chief voice. It ain't it. It'll take some getting used to. And then also the fucking Bokeem Woodbine just pulling out a pistol. Like, he need to put on a helmet, bro. Like, I've seen him in too much shit that isn't anywhere near Halo. Like so many different like hood movies. Just seeing him Halo with the fucking.
Now he's rolling up in a different
Halo.
movie.
Yeah, it's just I can't picture it back and forth. Like I'm remembering him from like fucking South Central some shit, and then I see him in this shit. So, but other than that, I mean that the CGI looks incredible. It kind of reminds me of when they remastered Halo 2. They did the Halo 2 anniversary for the Master Chief collection, and they redid all the cutscenes. And it pretty much looks exactly like that, which it looked amazing in that, but that was all just animation. So they kind of put that with the live action, and it still looks pretty good. So I'm down for it. We'll see what goes on with it, and hopefully the story isn't too crazy different from the game.
Kelly, I don't want to get another streaming service, but I'm with these guys. Like Paramount Plus, Halo, the series looks incredible. And I have said in the past, I'm going to wait till they release it on Blu-ray and I'll buy it day one. I'm okay with that. And now I'm edging more towards let's wait until all the episodes come out and maybe binge them all at once. But I really want to see this first episode too. Like I know everyone's going to be spoiling it and talking about it as much as I'm on Twitter on March 25th. All the big plot points are going to be in there. So it looks really cool. You saw the trailer too. And I just love the production on this. I think it looks like they used a real suit. I'm sure they didn't, but that's how good the CGI looks as far as Master Halo himself. So I really like it. It does look incredible.
Didn't they have a few behind the scenes images where they showed him in the suit like early before the trailers came out? Like I'm sure the suit looks, the suit's definitely real. It's definitely not CG.
That's awesome. That's even better.
I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Like the suit is not CG. I mean, maybe in certain scenes when he's doing certain things, but a lot of the time when he's walking around, it's a real suit, right?
I've seen some really, really good cosplay Master Chief suits that if you just seen that walking around, you would think you were in a movie. Like some of these people do some really cool shit. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine with the money that they're spending on the CGI and the locales and some of the big names that they have in there, I can imagine that some of it spruced up with CGI, but the suit itself, it has to be real.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
I will say, Daniel, if you need an excuse, Paramount Plus does also have Paw Patrol. So if you just want to blame it on Leo, that's okay.
And SpongeBob too, Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah. We'll pass on SpongeBob.
Well, now we can't get Paramount Plus, so thanks.
Yeah, it's Sully and SpongeBob.
Yo, Sully, his poor eyes and ears.
Bobby, you and I have been following this one a lot closer. The JLA Avengers Hero Initiative 7,000 print collection that we covered a few weeks back has hit over $200 on eBay. The George Perez, Kurt Busiek original issues have also ballooned in value after this release. You put up on Discord how it's pretty much a shit show as far as, but we anticipated that retailers and even Diamond, from what I saw, told retailers that this was going to be an allocated product. I pre-ordered this within a day of when they announced it. I didn't know that it was going to be this limited, and I don't expect to get a copy because comic shops are doing all kinds of different things for this. Some I've heard are doing like a ticketing system where you can pay $5 per ticket to get your name in, and then all of the money goes towards the Hero Initiative. So instead of the Hero Initiative only getting $10 for that one trade paperback that one comic shop got, they're potentially getting hundreds of dollars instead. And then the comic shop, yeah, they're not making all that money, but they're instead maximizing it, and it's more of a fair process, unless they can somehow keep track on who pre-ordered the thing first. But if you've been a collector at any point especially during the last couple of years, you know that you're pretty much not guaranteed to get your thing when it's this limited. So at least on my end, I'm not upset about the limited availability of it, but I do hope that they do a second run. And I wish they had done like a 20,000 print run, because this was going to sell no matter what.
Yeah, it's a shit show. And, you and I have a mutual that I've talked to that the heavy allocation, and they're not giving them out to anybody that requested it. So they're using it as a raffle type auction to where all the benefit goes to the Hero Initiative, which is great. But it kind of sucks. Like, I'm torn because I'm a collector and I want to have one. And I don't buy stuff to resell it either. So I'm in a weird corner of that, but I don't have an original either.
Bobby says that in his 7 copies of Department of Truth #1.
Hey, that was different. So the money's going for a good cause. It's great. But like folks like me that actually want a copy and I don't even have the original copy, like this kind of sucks because I'm not gonna be able to get one. They're going to go for even more. And it's good that the money's going to go where it needs to go, hopefully, with some of these companies. But I've seen some companies that are not doing that. They just put it up on their shelf and they just jack the price up on purpose because they're using that heavily allocated print run as the excuse to sell it for more and, bouncing it off of eBay dollars, which that sucks. Like, if you're going to do that, you take that money and use it to where it's supposed to go, to the Hero Initiative.
Right.
And just so there's no confusion, the money for the sales for these aren't going to George Perez, which is fine because him and his family are well off. They're fine. The money's to help the Hero Initiative and all the other artists and writers that aren't as fortunate, that need that help. And that's what the Hero Initiative does. So that's the point of all of it. And for those of you that haven't seen it yet, there's a picture up there. George Perez got his copy last week, and he was able to hold it and look at it, and he's just beyond excited. He doesn't look well, obviously, but he's very happy having that book, and he's got it in his hands. He was able to preview it a couple months ago. He went to the DC offices, and now he actually has his own copy. So good for him, good for his family, and I hope the money goes where it needs to go for this quote unquote shit show, or what it is, because the stores got hosed.
George Perez is an artist, right?
Yeah, he's done a little bit of writing too.
A little bit of writing.
He doesn't look well. Is he sick?
Yeah, he's suffering from stage 3. I think it's pancreatic cancer. So he's just not doing very well. He's already been they put him in hospice last month.
Oh, really? Wow. Because George Perez is pretty famous.
He's created a lot of the characters that we enjoy today. Like, he just a whole gamut of characters, both on Marvel and DC side.
Right. Nightwing, Deathstroke. There's a Starfire, a bunch of the new
a lot of the Teen Titan members. Yeah,
Raven.
Teen Titans. Maestro for Marvel, also Taskmaster. Like, he's just done a whole bunch of characters.
I do agree with you as far as any of the comic shops. Normally, when something is this allocated, and we used to do it where, okay, this is a allocated book, like Batman Damned, for example, was a good one, where we tagged $80 on it when it hit the shelves because that's what it was going for on eBay. And anyone that pre-ordered it, we had enough to cover them, and they got it at cover price as long as they pre-ordered it before FOC. But everyone else afterward, it's like $80, man, because we know you're buying it to flip it, or you're going to sit on it.
Yeah, specs.
But if there's Hero Initiative involved, that's where I think it is scummy to use that money, as you were saying. And it's like, all right, well, we gave them their $10, so now we can make the profit. To me, it's especially when one of the co-creators has weeks or months to live. It doesn't look right, and I wouldn't do that if I were a comic shop. I would instead go with the ticketing system. If they do a ticketing system at my LCS, I will put in $20, which is what I would have paid for this thing. Is it going for 20 or 40? I don't remember, but whatever I would have paid for it is the number of tickets I'll buy. If I lose, then great. The money still ended up going to the Hero Initiative. if they're doing it that way. And I hope more comic shops do take that with their 7,000 copies. But it's such a speculative market right now that I really don't expect a lot of actual collectors to receive it. We're going over to the Disney side of streaming. I know it's not too often that we do include Disney, but sometimes we do. After adding the mature-rated Daredevil and the Defenders Netflix shows onto Disney Plus, the members of the Parents Television Council are voicing their issues with Disney's choice. And Tim Winter, who is the president of PTC, said, quote, "For more than 98 years, the Walt Disney Company has been synonymous with the words family friendly, and I can think of no other corporation in American history that has been built more squarely on the backs and on the wallets of parents and families. The company's eponymous platform, Disney Plus, logically marketed itself as a family-friendly streaming service, and parents have placed their trust in Disney to deliver just that," end quote. So as of March 16th, Disney Plus will be adding every season of Daredevil, Jennifer Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Defenders, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., some of which are TVMA or R-rated. They have blood, sex, all of that stuff. And it's been kind of confusing for a lot of people where they were saying, you have Hulu, you own majority in Hulu, why aren't these instead on Hulu? And I, for one, stand with PTC. And I do think that this is not good for family life, for family people like Kelli and I that might not, now it's not safe to maybe be on Disney Plus and enjoy these characters, and it's a shame.
Lord.
This is what we're talking about, using articles that we know aren't completely true.
Dan joined the fucking 1,000 mom
This week.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
but I will say we use Disney Plus pretty regularly because, of course, Leo watches his shows. And at least from what I've seen, it's not like these shows are super advertised. Like, you have to scroll through a few different things to find these. And I don't know if it's just because we always just watch Mickey Mouse, Clubhouse, whatever it's called. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I don't care. That's my
Let me
sense.
give some more, because I talked about this on my podcast. I did a little rant where I talked about this and a few other Disney related stuff. And so it's funny because there is some truth to what he's saying about the idea that this is like a family, Disney has been very family friendly, and that this is technically off brand, but there's a much deeper thing going on that I think is a lot of people really aren't thinking about. So they just announced recently that they were adding on Disney's, actually on their website, their Disney Plus website, that they were launching some new parental control features that are going to go into like granular, level, so you can control more specifically who gets what, or whatever. Apparently they didn't have that before because there was no real need for it. And then they launched this. So the article that they actually posted on parentstv.org, which is the Parent Television and Media Council's website, was basically just saying like, hey, I recognize that you added some parental controls on there, but that's not enough. You shouldn't be bringing this to your brand at all. And the thing is that it's funny how, because the Tim Winter guy you were talking about, he actually said in his quote, kind of after you ended the quote, he says, "So what comes next? Adding live striptease performances in Fantasyland at Disney World?"
It's coming at the rate of this.
Yeah, the slippers.
So he actually, first and foremost,
Daredevil, then strippers.
yeah,
And Booth
clearly,
Babes.
clearly,
Nah,
Kelly, you see where this is going.
I do. I see it all circles back to the
Yeah.
Booth Babes. I don't know.
what's
I'm learning new things.
More food and wine, Dan.
But clearly these people haven't actually watched Daredevil, because these are the most clean, like scrubbed down TVMA shows that you can possibly find. They have censored themselves so much in the language, nudity, sex, and even in the violence department, it's not that violent. The only big thing about these shows was that they were more violent and they were a TVMA Marvel produced show, although there had been plenty of, Marvel content made by Fox or Sony that was mature before Disney, got into it with Netflix or whatever. But there's nothing like, they should be TV-14, to be frank. So I think this is there's a much bigger statement to be made about the rating system itself, and how I think Disney's kind of gaming the system by well, they were gaming the system as soon as they made the shows, because the shows shouldn't have been TVMA. I think it's actually bringing down, because if you guys watch TVMA stuff, like even network stuff, it's way more explicit than Daredevil. Like Daredevil, they won't even say fuck. I think that it's funny because when you go on Twitter and people are talking about it and everything, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see that, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, scene or whatever. It's going to be crazy. I can't believe this is happening. It's like, come on, guys. Like, did you like, discover your have a sexual awakening watching a Netflix,
You're talking
show?
about Disney fans. I mean, you're talking about MCU stands. Of course they do.
Right, exactly. So I think that, it's, I don't know. I think it's all topsy-turvy in my opinion. It's all weird.
In the grand scheme of things, what is PCC gonna do? They watching they spend they're going to Disney. They're gonna watch Disney shows. They're gonna watch the Pixar films. Like, what are they really gonna do?
Yeah,
Disney can do whatever they want. There's nothing they can do.
I call bullshit on PTC, and they're hypocritical because they're worried about these shows. But what about Mandalorian? He's walking around with a freaking Darksaber, slicing people up. And he's shooting all the Star Wars films. They're using blasters and killing everybody. So to pick on a comic book show versus all of the Star Wars stuff where they're slicing people up and shooting people and dismembering them, how is this worse than that?
Yeah.
Because
the rating
involved in
system
these.
is just jacked.
This makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
The only violent thing that I'll say, I've watched all of these. I don't know if anybody else has. Daredevil season 1, episode 4 has a very violent scene.
That's where the car door,
right?
thing.
The car door, where
and that was censored. Like they did a good job to give you the impression of what was happening. But to be frank, you could probably pull a lot of that off in a TV-14 show, in an edgy TV-14 show.
Yeah. The only other moment that's probably an issue is it's in Luke Cage season 1. He fucks the shit out of Jessica Jones, and that's in bed. So like you see the whole scene. Like they're probably going to censor that. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a TV show on broadcast ABC, so that there's no issues there. That's already edited to hell. Defenders wasn't.
There's definitely an issue with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That shit is trash.
Yeah,
it's fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, the rating system is just it's completely backwards, and it's just funny because I guess releasing this content to the fans and the users of Disney, I suppose maybe there is something to that, but there's no parents who are really, I feel, really should be concerned, because the parents who are really letting their streaming services decide what their kids watch, and they aren't trying to moderate the values that their kids are consuming through their entertainment. They're just lazy, and their kids deserve to watch whatever is on there, It's like,
well, the reality though is your kids are probably going to watch something worse somewhere else. So even though it's available, even if you censor it, they're going to go and find that stuff. I mean, you let them watch YouTube, right? And they have an iPad and they have a device, and are you really standing over their shoulder watching what they're watching? So they're going to find this somewhere.
Yeah.
And Mike was right. Like, they are adding a parental control system, which they're probably going to lock stuff in a corner, and it's going to be harder to access some of these shows. They're probably going to migrate some of the other titles that they have that are edgy as well and put them in the corner as well. Because like Kelly was saying, if you have it set up for a kid and they're using it, they really have to dig and find the other shows and movies that are on there that are adult material. Like, when you have that set up for a child, because I have it set up for a child here, like the searching capability is turned off. Like, you can only search through the other kids' shows and other shows with the same rating system. So it's not going to be easy, but is it doable? We don't know. When it releases, I'm going to mess around with it, because you might be able to put a pin system on it, which that would solve a lot of the problems, because that's what Amazon has per Prime. They have a pin system that you can put on certain things so that it won't let you watch material.
And they still could censor it too. Like, they're just announcing the shows are coming to Disney Plus. I mean, Disney has been known to have censored some of their content on, bringing it to Disney Plus.
That's true too. They might just censor all that crap out.
They very well could censor it, change it, make it, kind of make it a little bit less
So then
even less explicit, So I mean,
if that's the case, Mace, then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just gets completely canceled, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Censor the whole thing?
Just 0 seconds. Well, if they do censor any of these shows, then I will raise a fuss about artistic integrity and all that.
The heroes
So you
all deserve.
You win either way.
Yeah.
Kind of. Or I lose either way.
1,000 moms of artistic integrity.
Damn right.
So funny.
There were some weird things that happened over on Warner Brothers before the Discovery merger happens in April next month. Warner Brothers has shifted the release dates for their DC films. So DC League of Super Pets went from May to July. Black Adam went from July to October. The Flush or the Flop went from November to June 2023. Aquaman 2, it got pushed from December to March 2023. And Shazam 2 got moved up from June 2023 to December of this year. People were quick to do a number of things. One, blame Zack Snyder, because a lot of people think that because the Snyderverse is pretty much restored, we think that it affected all of these films. Or two, they got false hope that the Snyderverse is definitely restored because they moved these films. I'm still on the camp of these films have nothing to do with Zack Snyder's universe, even The Flash, which is supposedly resetting all of these things.
I just want to say that last time I was on the podcast, I called it. I literally said, what the fuck does DC even have coming out this year? And you were like, oh, Aquaman 2, The Flash is supposed to. I'm like, man, that shit ain't coming out.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, we haven't seen shit for these damn movies. That shit ain't coming out. And sure enough, that shit got pushed back. The only thing we've seen was Black Adam. And guess what? That's the one that's still coming out this year. Like, they're just moving stuff around. I don't know if they needed more work on it, but at least just on the possibility, I don't know if they seen what's going on in China and South Korea, but the COVID came back and shit is fucked up over there. Like, they had to shut down.
China's shut down.
Yeah, like shit is fucked up over there. So they thinking that it might be a new variant. Let's go ahead and push these back, try to get some money off it. Last thing they want to do is throw shit back on HBO Max. So I see to me, that's the only real thing. The more interesting thing is the move up of Shazam 2. That's the interesting part about that. Seeing as if, how is the movie that finished and they're willing to push it up like 6 months?
Is there any other movie that's coming out December this year? Because if nothing else has that spot.
Yeah, it's Avatar 2. Avatar 2 is coming out on the same exact day as Shazam 2.
Man,
fucking
do you believe that's coming out?
Do we still care about Avatar 2?
I fucking do. I'm rooting for that shit over Shazam 2.
Yeah, I mean, so there's always a big like blockbuster film that comes out that just gets money simply because it's the only thing worth watching, right? If that's all Avatar was, then it would get probably more sales than than Shazam. But that's not what it is. It's it's directed by James Cameron. It's a sequel to a very popular first film that's a part of a massive, big project that he's been working on for years. So I think that when the advertisement and also remember 20th Century Fox is now 20th Century Studios with Disney now. So they're going to have Disney's marketing behind it. It's going to be massive. Shazam doesn't even have a chance. Nothing has a chance against that.
Are you going to be seeing any of these yourself, Bobby? I think Millennial Mike and Macio are not really hyped for any of these, just as I am.
I'll watch them when they hit HBO Max.
Or Discovery, whatever
whatever that new service is going to be called. I'll watch them there.
I might actually. We'll see. The rest of that, I don't.
Black the Rock Adam, huh?
Yeah, I don't care about Shazam. I don't care about Aquaman. And I mean, 2023 doesn't even matter at this point. Like, who knows if we'll make it? We might get the fuck out.
We're still in 2020. Let's be real.
I'm going to be in the theater when the bomb drops. So
this podcast just got really dark. This is not what we were 500 episodes ago.
The news drops when Restore the Snyderverse happens.
Right then, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could die happy, right?
Did you find out fast enough, or were you already dead?
There were a lot of questions as to what was going to happen with the streaming service, and Millennial Mike, you hinted at it here. Discovery confirmed this week that HBO Max and Discovery Plus will be merged into one streaming service. Discovery CFO Gunnar Wiedenfels says the first step during integration will be some form of bundling, while the new company figures out the best way to merge the two platforms. He went on to say, quote, "The question is, in order to get to that point and do it in a way that's actually a great user experience for our subscribers, that's going to take some time. Again, that's nothing that's going to happen in weeks, hopefully not in years, but in several months. And we will start working on an interim solution in the meantime," end quote. He did also mention that Discovery is a primarily female-dominated streaming service, while HBO Max is primarily a male-dominated streaming service, so that merging the two together has the potential of truly creating a really robust, making HBO Max Discovery a more robust streaming service, a bigger player in the game. And I think that we were all kind of expecting the merger or a bundling to happen. And it sounds like both are happening, but it's going to be in phases. And Discovery seems like, I think this is the smarter move.
By bundling, they mean that the price is going up, they can kiss my ass. I'm just saying, I fuck with HBO. My curb, give me my curb, give me my, my wife likes Euphoria, but there's nothing I really watch on Discovery Plus. If my price has to get jacked up because
you don't watch Yellowstone?
When it no. Just because if my price goes up because AT&T wanted to fire sale everything and get out of the content game, like that's gonna fucking suck.
Right now it's at $14.99, I think, a month, or you get the yearly bundle and it's $12.99 is what it averages out to. They did mention that there's also going to be an ad and ad-free version, so I don't know what those prices are going to look like when they go that route. I do hope that they kind of do what they did with HBO to HBO Max, where they're like, if you already have the streaming service, here's an extra year at this discounted price to get you everything all in one. Do you guys expect a price hike by a couple dollars by adding this Discovery content, or would they keep it? What's Discovery? What would your move be as Discovery at the $14.99 price point right now?
Hike it up, because HBO is definitely the prestige streaming service as far as like the sheer amount of content that it has, and I think it kind of has a reputation to live up to, because it's always been the most expensive. Netflix has been kind of trailing behind it, and theoretically HBO Max has more content, although I would argue that Netflix is probably a better platform. It's been around longer. It also has
technology is better.
The technology is better. The actual platform is better. Recommendations are better. It has a bigger user base that, it's been collecting analytics for longer. It has far more 4K content. So it's actually, they actually team up with different technologies, like Sony, Samsung, LG, to actually make sure that their devices are Netflix certified. So that way the 4K content looks the best on all TVs. Like they really end to end make sure that their service is really good. Whereas HBO Max is just, I don't know, the Game Pass of a bunch of crap no one wants, but hey, technically it has the most.
I will say, when it comes to, and I don't know how Discovery Plus is, but when it comes to HBO, like the technology is lacking, man. Like I think the only thing I've ever watched in HDR on fucking HBO Max is trash ass Wonder Woman 1984. Like they don't. Where's the HDR? Where's the 4K? How come every time I turn on HBO Max, the shit starts off in like 180p? Like when I turn on Netflix, I click play, it's 4K off rip. YouTube 4K off rip. Then I click on a HBO stream, and it always has to start, even if it's for 2 seconds. I shouldn't be looking at 180p pixels.
You shouldn't be able to see the pixels.
4K, yeah. On a 4K screen, I'm sitting 8 feet away, and I'm seeing pixels on my screen that big. Come on, man! Like the discovery is terrible. The search is terrible. Like it's awful, man. Like I don't know what they need to do to get that shored up. I don't know if they switch over to whatever Discovery Plus is doing, but the platform, the tech is terrible. So they need to upgrade that for sure. But when it comes to the content, it's like, I don't know what Discovery has, but if they come through and flood HBO Max with Discovery Plus content and it's just trash, like how half the fucking Netflix shows are like now like reality TV.
Yeah.
Like
AI generated stuff. Yeah. Like this movie.
Like, I'm done, bro. I'm not.
Yeah. Netflix is trash too, though, when it comes to their
Curve
content. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like some things are going to get with Discovery Plus. They have TLC, they have Animal Planet, Food Network, HGTV, History, Lifetime. So I could really see them putting both of these together, raising the price and bundling it as here's something for the entire family. So to Daniel's point, they were talking HBO is mainly for male subscribers. Listen, with Lifetime, Food Network, HGTV, yeah, absolutely a female demographic. So bundle it together and say, here's for the entire family. I don't know, $19 a month. I could see it.
I mean,
I don't even know what that is, so I don't watch TV, obviously.
I hear it's amazing.
Property Brothers bang, bro. Like I'm mopped up. Put that on HBO.
Isn't that what?
That's the best thing to do. You sit down on the couch with your wife and just judge people how they picking their houses out. Come on, man. That's fine.
I do love me some HGTV. It's pretty great.
That is always what's playing at Planet Fitness. Like I always notice that everyone's either got CNN, Fox, or HGTV on the TVs. And sometimes I will peek over. I'm like, oh shit, how are they going to renovate that house? And I'm not really into that shit, but it's just entertaining.
So, it looks like right now Discovery Plus is only $7 a month for ad free. So I can't really see them tacking on too
17,
much.
22.
Yeah, no, I don't think they would do that.
No way.
I don't see it going above like 19. It's not going to get into $20. I would guess my Palpa guess is $16. 16 a month.
That price has to go up though, because Netflix is raising their prices every year. They're up to over 20 now.
Ooh.
So you better believe HBO Max is going to start raising the prices.
But they also the way Netflix works is they have 3 different tiers for the resolutions that you're getting in. You're getting the content in. So yes, their highest tier is like I think $20 or something like that. I did
it's It's like $21.50 for the highest tier.
Right, and then
for that
to
same
get the
tier,
same booty content that HBO has, you're paying the same amount. It's so that Netflix knows what they're doing. They're like, hey, you can get like 1080p immediately for the same cost that HBO HBO does it, or you can get 4K content immediately for a little bit more. I mean, Netflix knows what they're doing.
I do also agree that maybe over 20, I don't see that happening as far as the ad-free version. I think 20 max ad-free and then maybe $16.99 for the ad version. But I do agree with Millennial Mike. The price is probably going up, especially with all of those networks going on there. And Macio, I do hope that they follow this pattern of Discovery. They're bringing on their people and hopefully they bring on their app and use that platform, assuming it's better than HBO Max's. And I don't have major issues with HBO Max, and maybe I'm not paying attention to the resolution, and I don't know. I'm really not too sure. But if Discovery does have a better platform, a more reliable one, let's say, then I would not be surprised if they continued again that pattern of we want to use our stuff, we want to use our guys, we want to use our tech. And we just want the properties, kind of like Microsoft with Game Pass. It's like we just want the licenses to Batman, Wonder Woman, to all of the Warner Media library to put onto our platform, which hopefully can support now the over 70 million subscribers that they're adding onto the 20 to 30 million from Discovery.
Yeah, like that's a good plan on just off the fact that they get to get all those users into one thing. So it's a smart thing to bundle it all together. You get everybody just under one house, and then you could use that to leverage into getting more content, expensive content, kind of like what Netflix does. But the tech, man, like Netflix is just so far ahead with the tech. Even compared to Disney, they're blowing every streaming service out of the water when it comes to the platform and the tech.
Well, they know they're end to end. Like they work with the hardware manufacturers to make sure that their applications are optimized. So that's one thing I don't think that a lot of the other services are doing.
No.
So Netflix is definitely way ahead of the game.
Also, remember, I think it was a year ago, we were discussing their earnings call, and they just like doubled down like the budgets and the money. They're just throwing it all at the wall. It's like we're going to keep going. So they're throwing the money out there for not only content but also their tech.
That's right. Yeah, Zaslav that was part of the thing where they were getting ready to plug in. I think they were saying they were spending more than any other streaming service on new content. Is the plan, and we'll find out in a month exactly what they plan on doing. But this is probably the first big hint as to the takeoff running type of plan that Discovery seems to want to take with HBO Max and the rest of the properties. So I do think it's a good sign. I'm glad there is a plan. I'm just
there'll be an HBO verse. Every show will be a part of the same universe.
What would they call this thing? Like, that's what I'm wondering. HBO Discovery? Will they call it Warner Max? Who knows?
Discover HBO. Done.
There you go. But that is the bulk of our...
They ain't paying you, Kelly.
You're right. You're right. Can't release his episode. Sorry, guys.
That does wrap up the bulk of news this week. A lot of big moves and trailers. So a lot of good stuff for episode 500. We now head into the Bro Kept block, which is going to have some special episode 500 retail stories or work stories, as well as the Bro Kept block, which is what we've been doing this week. I don't know if you guys need a little bit of time. If you want to share some of your retail stories, customer bannings, more recent customer banning in Bobby's case, because he's got the ban hammer from what he tells on the podcast here. Mine came to mind. I do have one of this guy that I can now share. I guess I'll kick it off since I'm already going into it. Back when I was at the comic shop, there was one of many regulars this guy was a speculator. He would buy comics at his other comic store that he had an actual subscription at, and then he would call over the phone or on Facebook, reserve all of the hot books that released the next day. So on Tuesday night, he would do this, or on Wednesday morning, he would call and ask for these particular books. And then he would either not show up, so the books would come off hold after the 7 days, or he would show up and only pick out the ones that happen to still be worth money by the time he came up and showed up, because some books go down in value, some stay at cover price, and some end up getting a lot more lucrative, I guess. And after so many books that you don't pick up, our policy at the store was, we're no longer going to hold books for you because you're keeping product from the shelves. And in the comic market, the sooner you get it out there and the sooner you sell it, the better, because a hot book is not going to be hot in a week. The newest issue of Spider-Man, as much as people like Spider-Man, is not going to, the sales dip like crazy by the time week 2 comes out, because comic collectors have that shiny thing syndrome where they're like, oh, but there's a new book of Moon Knight or Batman this week, and I'd rather read that. And in this case, I ended up telling the guy, I can't hold any more books for you. And he threw a fuss over the phone. And that's when I do the what else can I help you with? What else can I help you with? Like, I push away from, we're not going to talk about this anymore. This is settled. I'm not going to hold books for you. What else can I do for you? And to the point where I believe he ended up hanging up on me, or I hung up on him. I can't recall. But he came in weeks later on a Wednesday, and I recognized him right away. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to deal with him because I have a temper. So this is not going to end well. So my coworker, she helped him out, and he's looking through the back issues, and he's trying to look for speculator books that he got on that shitty ass app that people use, the Key app. And he's going through that, and he's picking out books from the bins. And she's like, okay, yeah, let's see if we have that. Let's see if we have that. And she's pulling all this stuff out, which I wouldn't take the time of day with him, because I know that he's not going to buy all of those anyway. But he ended up buying the big pile of them, over $100 worth of books. So she rings him up. I'm like, okay, great. I didn't have to fucking talk to the guy. Well, after he's done ringing him up, he goes, what's your name? And she gives her name, and she's like, yeah, thank you for helping me. You know, I know this guy here doesn't want to hold books for me anymore. And I'm like, yeah, and you know why? And we got into it. and I was like, you know why? Because we were holding books for you and you weren't picking them up. And he ended up raising his voice and going, this guy doesn't care about his customers. And and I'm like, okay, man. I just kept nodding and saying, okay, kind of like end the conversation, leave, like just get out. And I was like, all right, man. Okay. And I was smiling. Okay, man, sure. And he goes, see, he doesn't give a shit. He's sitting there nodding. He doesn't give a shit. And again, I'm like, look, I helped you out already. You're getting belligerent. You're getting loud. If you keep this up, I'm going to ask you to leave. And that's when he started using foul language. And I said, all right, And when he started using foul language, it became the famous line in the store that the rest of the coworkers repeated that I don't remember saying, but apparently I did, where he said something and I cut him off and I said, "That's it. Just for that, get out. You're banned. You're not welcomed at any of the stores." And that became the line of, you know what? Just for that, you're banned. Like whatever he said put me over the edge. And as he was leaving, he was telling this teenager that was looking at the manga section, he's like, "Don't buy anything from these guys." And I was like, "Get out. I'm calling the police." And then he fucking left. I sent an email to all the stores with his name, exactly what happened. And I said, "He's not welcomed in this store. I recommend you don't do any business with him at that store, at any of your stores." And that's it. So that became like the iconic, "Just for that, get out, you're banned," and forever repeated at the comic shop. But that's just one of my banning stories that I have right now.
We need a GIF
Hit 'em
of
with the
that
local
on
show.
Discord. That's it. Get out. That's it. You're banned.
Get out.
Yeah.
I got one
Hit 'em
from
with the
this
local
weekend.
show, man.
Of course you do. Yeah. What's your latest banning?
Hot off the presses. So Friday, this chick walks into our South Orlando location. So it wasn't even my store. And when she's leaving, she went to the bathroom. And then as she's leaving, she pretends to trip and picks up a backpack that was on the floor at the edge of a table and then runs out the door. It's the most blatant theft I've ever seen in my stores. And I've worked there for almost eight years. So that happens. The store manager calls me. He's like, "Hey, this happened, blah, blah, blah." Sends out the picture. It was kind of early in the night. So he's like, "She's probably going to come over to your store and try to sell stuff, whatever's in the backpack." So I let all the staff know. I ended up going home because I wasn't closing that night. Saturday morning, the very next day, guess who walks in the freaking door? This chick walks in the door. But let me go back 1 second. When she stole that backpack on Friday, she was wearing her work shirt.
Wow.
She works at Lady Bird Elementary. So not only are you wearing your work shirt, you're a freaking daycare teacher and you're stealing from kids in a game store? Are you kidding me? So Saturday, she walks in and I kind of recognized her. I was like, "Oh, I know who that is." But there was a guy with her and the guy was the one selling the cards. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be fun. I get 2 for 1. How I approach these things is when we get the bolos or things like that, or I just know that stuff's stolen, I end up just like, being normal and taking everything, but then I stall to hell. And while I'm, as soon as I identify the problem, I just call the police in the background and, let the police surprise them. So that's what I did. I called the other store. I was like, "Hey, she's here. If you could just," because it was actually kind of busy. I was like, "I'm a little busy right now. I'm going to stall them to hell, but call the police because you dealt with them last night and just get the police here." It just so happens one of the employees that worked at the location was actually in my store too. They were doing some shopping. So I went over to him and I was like, "Hey, that's the chick from last night." He's like, "Holy crap, it is." I was like, "All right, cool. Go outside and take a picture of her plate just in case they get out of here." I was like, "I already got, your manager here to call the police. So hopefully they get here quickly." So sure enough, I'm stalling through buying their cards. She goes in and out of the door a couple times. I'm wondering if she was spooked, but no. Gave me his ID. I got his driver's license information again, just in case. And then the cops showed up. So they came pretty quick within 10 minutes. So I just pointed, they already had the whole story. I just pointed over. I was like, "Those two, I need them out of here. They got stolen stuff. And she stole the stuff last night." So he took them both outside and questioned them. And he came back in. I showed him the video. I was like, I need both of them trespassed and I need to ban them from all our locations. He's like, "All right, I'll do that for you." He's like, "I'll bring you back the trespass number." I was like, "How many stores do you have?" I was like, "I got 6 stores. I need to ban from all, but trespass from this one." He's like, "All right, take care of it." So 20 minutes later, he finished all that crap and I got 2 more people banned and trespassed. It's very, you got to be a special kind of stupid to steal stuff from one store one night and then bring it to your sister store the next day. And not only that, but thief in your work shirt. Because if she wouldn't have come in, we were going to track her down anyways because she wore her work shirt. So it's just ignorance on a whole different level.
Well, some they say some criminals want to be caught.
They could have sold it to any other company card store, and they chose, of course, the same company. It doesn't astound me because they are that stupid.
Yep. And the guy that they stole it from, a guy that I know because I've covered in that store a lot, is a really nice kid. He refuses to press charges. I don't know what his issue is because I told him, I was like, all the staff over there told him to press charges, and then when he came pick up the cards that they tried to sell, because I'll tell you the resolution, but he came pick up the cards yesterday. that they tried to sell, which, mind you, was several $100s. It was almost $500 of cards. I said, you gotta press charges because they're not going to do anything unless you press charges. And he gave me this weird, like, I don't know, man, look. And I'm like, dude, you have to press charges. She works at a school and she's doing this and stole your stuff. What if they didn't come here? Like, you got to teach them a lesson. You got to get it going. Like, press charges. So I don't know why he won't. Hopefully he did. But the resolution was he was supposed to meet with the thief and the Ocoee Police Department yesterday to handle the transfer. So that was his moment to press charges. I don't know if he did or not. I'm going to find out, but
Sounds like a show that should be on Discovery Plus.
On the History Channel.
Yes.
Band stories.
Yeah. Yeah, you're banned.
Just for that,
That'll
you're
be like-
banned.
That's in the opening.
Yeah.
The opening song.
The security footage from that, yeah.
Yeah, it always like blows my mind that people don't think that the same company and same stores talk to each other. Like, I work for a coffee shop and we have several stores around, and you better believe if someone's doing something in one store, I'm getting a phone call in case they come down to me, and they're just always surprised, like, oh, I did that over there. Well, yes, you did. Like,
Yeah.
we're not stupid.
This isn't the 70s, 80s. You don't cross state lines and then, it's complete like
Right. You don't go 5 minutes down the road and suddenly we don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
We
not just
checked
that, because you'll tell them that, you'll confront them, and they're like, they'll go like, "Oh no, I wasn't over there." And I pull my phone out with their picture. So that's not you? Oh.
It's got to be like To Catch a
Or-
Predator. No, that's not me.
Or they'll lie and just say, "No, that's not me," and they start walking away. "No, that's not me." Yeah, get the hell out of here. You're banned.
Bye.
we got two managers in here. Huh?
Well, 3 now, and then, well, yeah, 2 at this point. Macio and Millennial Mike. Actually, Kelli, you were going into do you want to share any kind of banning since you currently work at your company?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many banning stories.
Or
I
funny
do have-
customers, whatever?
I mean, yeah, not really funny, crazy customers. So where I work, we do get a lot of homeless patrons who can get belligerent. So I have actually trespassed a few people because they'll steal tips. They'll just start yelling at people. We had one guy who lived on our patio for a few days, and I was like, you gotta go. You can't stay here. So I have had a few of those, but just interesting customer stories and frustrating is, of course, I work at a coffee shop. We see the same people every day. They come in for their coffee and we get to know them, and they can get so people get so comfortable in a business where they're telling us wild stories. And I've had to go to people and say, you can't talk like that in here. You can't tell us about what you did with 2 girls last night. Like, that is not okay. Through my drive-through and talk about, how you wish you had drugs right now. Like, there are minors on this headset. And they're like, oh, well, I'm just joking around. And I'm like, but you're not going to do that here. And they never think I'm serious. And I'm like, I don't need your money. I will find money elsewhere. Like, just be a normal human. And it's just crazy, some of the things people talk about. And it's like, how do you do that in a public setting? I don't know. Customers are wild. But we have had customers where, they'll just look at us and be like, are you stupid? And then I'm like, well, you don't have to come back. I don't know why you still come here if you think we're stupid. My biggest challenge right now is we have Uber delivery drivers who pick up orders and they want to yell at us. And I can get you banned from coming to my store. Like, I do the service for you. Why are you going to yell at me? So it's pretty crazy. It's a fun time. Managing is just so fun.
I do like you defending and protecting the minors. Disney Plus could use someone like you with their terrible content they're adding now.
Yeah.
That's why I do it, of course.
Tim Winters better watch out. We got Kelli
Doing the job properly.
Leading the way.
That's funny. I don't really have a lot of, because I'm not doing managerial work. I'm just doing good old classic customer service phone calls, but I don't have a lot of stories that I would say are really like terribly good to tell, or maybe I'm just not very good at telling stories. A lot of sad stories, a lot of people calling in very desperate because their products are, and I can't do anything, and the expectations, and like a lot of painful, stressful stuff that's maybe I laugh about at the moment because I have nothing else I can do. One thing that's always really annoying, I'm not sure if you guys, maybe you can relate to this, but especially working in it for a technology, consumer electronics company, with customers, sometimes they want to spar with you. They want like, oh, this person, does he really know as much as he should know? He works at Best Buy. He should, he needs to be the expert. And then when they find out something that you don't know, like, see, that's why this company's terrible. They don't train their workers, and it's just like
they immediately run to Twitter and tell everyone, like, I just one up this guy.
It's
I know
terrible.
more than he does.
Hey, the funniest thing is like, oh, so they call in. It's like, I run a business, or actually I have a PhD, or it's, oh, great. It's like, what phone do you want? It's like, oh, that's really good. I'm just here to sell you a phone. But somehow they'll try to get you they'll try to trip you up, and they'll ask you all these questions that they actually know the answer to. And then you basically try to ask them. It's like, okay, so we've established that you know the answer to this. So what is it that I can do to help you? No, I asked you a simple question. Why can't you answer? It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, please, why me? And, I'm always a very straight shooter. So, when I'm talking, I disarm a lot of people because I'm like, listen, it's like, yeah, I don't know everything about it. If you call in, most people probably won't know that answer. It's extremely niche. So I'm very solution oriented. So if you have a problem you need to solve, I'd be happy, but I don't think your problem I have the ability to. I might think, yeah.
I was I like to dive into like the psychology. Like, I've been in customer service, food and beverage for like my whole career, and I love to dive into like the psychology of why people do this, because probably in the rest of their life, like, they don't one up anybody. And so they're like, well, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do, because they can't do anything about it. And like, that's so sad. Like, legitimately, it's just so sad that's like the people who call and they just want to yell at me on the phone. And I'm like, yep, you're right. We sucked. And they're like, oh, that's it. I'm like, well, that's what you want, right? Like, what else do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
And it's great. You just take the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
That's the best part of not working in a corporate environment like myself. I can pretty much do what I want. I got a lot of control over what I can do. And if people get belligerent, I just get belligerent back with them. I don't stoop to their level. But like, I'll tell them to go fly a kite in the middle of the intersection. Whereas if you're working in a retail, like, not retail, sorry, in a corporate environment, you can't, because what's going to happen is you get in trouble, you lose your job, or you get disciplined, and then you have to go to that customer, give them a gift card, and tell them you're sorry.
Right.
But in my environment, like, I can tell them how it is. Like, if I want to tell them to go sit it and run in that intersection while flying a kite, I can tell them to do
what
that.
corporations that you work for? Because I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot of corporations where you can get away with a lot.
Yeah, you're right. It depends. I've worked in retail corporate. I've worked in like UPS, Office Depot, Publix. I've worked for all those companies.
Yeah.
Albertsons, and some fast food places too. So it's like, you work for those places and you got an umbrella over you. It's like, you can't say certain things, or when people get belligerent with you, it's just like, you got to take it. And then even though they were wrong, you still got to give them money, because the customer's always right. Which sucks.
Thankfully, I haven't worked for any of those companies. You can use sarcasm. You can use, as long as you know you're in the right, you can. The thing is like, I'm always straightforward with customers. So I'm not necessarily like, there's a difference between being straightforward and being, I think, rude, or being like crass, obviously, or anything like that. Or, you basically want to set the expectation, and no matter what job, whether it's a sales job or customer service or whatever it may be, you want to basically like set the expectation early. So I'll tell the customer, like, I understand that, this is a frustrating situation. I really do want to do whatever I can for you. These are the options, and I'll even number them sometimes. I can do this. I can do this. So I try to be like very, very straightforward. And, most of the time you don't have to be rude, or you don't have to even be like sarcastic or cutting or whatever. You can just be like, just repeat what you said, reassure, like, hey, I understand that you're feeling this way, but, I have to go about it these different ways. I recommend this way, but if you want to do it this way, this way will take longer, but it'll be more, this will be better. This way will be a little bit quicker, but it might not be as efficient or whatever. Like, tell them like why you recommend the way that you do. And I think that most of the time it works. Sometimes people they just want to be belligerent. They want to vent. In those situations, sometimes if I'm feeling it, I'll allow them to vent. If I feel like they're like really good, like natured and good willed, and they're just having a bad time or whatever, I have to make that call. If they're just being like really mean spirited, then at that time, you might go the sarcasm way. You might go the kind of what do you call it? Like the AI, please choose your options. It's like, sorry, that's not an option. Please repeat. Like you could you could just completely like just read them the punch card again and again and again until they hang up. And that's kind of fun sometimes too.
What do you got, Macio? Any GameStop stories that you want to share?
Bro, it's been so long since those days, dude. Like I can't
blocked him from his mind.
Like that was like what, like fucking like a decade ago.
Wow.
I haven't worked. I've been working for the government pretty much ever since then. So like I don't
No
have to
banning.
deal with any of this bullshit. So the worst I get is maybe like sovereign citizens, and you kind of just laugh, guys. Like,
Oh, those are hilarious.
yeah, they don't even live in reality. So
No.
don't even entertain them. You kind of
Those-
just go, okay, yeah, all right, well, you got it. Guess what? Florida statute says I can't really deal with you, so you can just go and scurry out of my office.
Those were
Pretty
some of the
much it.
best stops on Live PD whenever they came across sovereign citizens.
Oh yeah, man. The crazy thing about sovereign citizens is that they say they're not bound by the law, and then they want to use the law to get you to do whatever they want you to do, and they'll be quick to call the sheriff on you to get whatever they want. But then when the sheriff comes to them to say, hey, you're driving without a license. Oh, I don't need a license. Actually, I don't even need to listen to you. They are a walking contradiction. I don't even waste my time with them. I kind of just say no and walk away. And then just stand there for like a half hour, maybe videotape you, put you on, oh, you're going to be on YouTube. Like, whoa. You and the other 50 sovereign citizens are going to be mad at me. That's about the craziest I get nowadays. Other than that, like pretty much my day is smooth sailing. I'm glad I'm out of the customer service retail game now.
Maybe one day I'll just be completely tired of it, but haven't hit that point yet. I wonder when it'll be,
Well, I do have a couple of short GameStop stuff that I do remember from working at the mall location. One of the collector's editions, or it was toys that they stole at GameStop, was of the Warthog or one of the flying Halo vehicles. I don't remember which one it was called. But the thing actually legit like flew. Like we were like, okay, it's just some cheap toy. It's not going to do anything. And that location was so slow in that mall. The mall is a dying mall. It's a dead mall basically at this point. The manager he was landing it from fixture to fixture and just seeing how perfectly we could land it. And that's just how slow that store was. There was baseball being played out in the mall hallway at one point with the employees. And yeah, basically, you know that one.
Yeah.
It's only funny because it's someone we know, but it's like literally he was playing baseball out in the hallway of the store instead of working it, but also, it was empty anyway, so it doesn't really fucking matter. Shit that I can't imagine getting away with now, of like just being that dead, flying fucking toys around the store and messing around. But the couple bannings that I will couple up here, there was one where those comic folios, the hard ones that people use to carry their comics, and I use them, and now I feel paranoid going into stores because I've caught people stealing in those. So these subscribers at the shop, I was playing Pokemon League with the players. I was running league, and I'll sit down if they challenge the gym leader or whatever, I would give them double stamps, and it was just like a fun thing for them to do, especially kids, because they would, they'd feel great after they beat my deck or whatever. So when I was sitting there on the tables in the gaming section, I looked up at the subscriber, and he had his comic folio open, and he had that guilty look on his face of like, I'm doing something. And that's when I was like watching him real closely. He didn't know I was back there playing. And he opens his folio and he grabs some back issues that he had put together, a little stack of them, and he stores them in there and he closes it. And I'm like, okay, you could make the argument that he's holding them there until he buys them. But the way he looked like all guilty, making sure he was keeping his eyes on the counter, making sure that the employees weren't watching him, I'm like, okay, this guy's about to steal these, or he's going to try to. So I'm like, all right, I got to get up, and I stop playing. I'm like, hey, I can't play. I put my deck away, and I go up to the counter and make sure to head him off in case he tries to make a run or anything like that. So he's looking around, and he makes his way to the counter, and I gestured to his folio, and I was like, hey, do you need this was his chance. I was like, do you need us to hold those behind the counter for you? And he goes, huh? And I'm like, do you need me to hold those comics behind the counter for you? He's like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay. So he looked around, checked out his books, and didn't pay for the ones that were in his folio. At that point, I had one of the employees call security in the back to have them. And this mall is also kind of dead. So the security had nothing to do. They came running. They fucking came running like there was a shootout happening and they were like super cops or something. Cause they were like, where are they? And I'm like, I wanted to wait for him to leave the store so that I can like charge him. And I was like, well, it's this guy over here. And he was with his friend and he's like, what'd you steal? And I'm like, well, it's in the folio. He grabbed those back issues and he didn't pay for them. So he pulled them out. He pretty much fessed up to it immediately because he was caught red-handed with them, and he pulls them all out. And then the mall officer, an actual officer, comes in and he gets told about the whole situation. His friend claims he didn't know that his friend was doing any of this. And he's like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. And I take a photo of both of them. And I'm like, okay, you're banned from all the stores. This is going to all the locations. You can no longer shop anywhere. And the guy that stole them says, that's fine. I'll just buy my comics online. I'm like, that's fine. Please do. Go steal from online shoppers. Don't steal from these stores. So by all means, go shop online. And the officer looks at me and he goes, okay, so he's banned and he's trespassed. Do you want to ban his friend too? And his friend starts talking and the officer goes, hey, I wasn't talking to you. And he lets this pause and he slowly turns to me and he's like, do you want to ban him too? And I'm like, yes. And his friend goes, no. And he drops to the ground on his knees, and he starts crying. And that's when I doubled up. I'm like, yes, I want him banned too. And he was crying and he was so upset and his friend didn't care. And he's like, I didn't know he was stealing them. I'm like, I don't care. You're both banned. And
wow.
And something similar happened where at the new store, there were 3 customers, all teenagers. 2 of them bought Warhammer stuff on the regular, but they were just sitting down at the gaming tables. I'm looking at the security camera like a hawk because it's busy in the shop and I have some blind spots. So I'm watching that as I'm ringing people up. And I noticed in the Funko Pop section, this guy is hunched over and he's messing around with something. So I make the camera bigger and I look and his backpack is wide open and he's shoving 4 or 5 Funko Pops in his bag and he's sealing it up. And I stop what I'm doing. I go over there and I stand over him and he's putting in another one. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, and he ignores me. And I'm like, I'm talking to you. What the fuck are you doing? And he's like, oh, I was going to pay for, I'm like, no, you're not going to pay for anything. Give me those. So I grab them. I take them up to the counter. I start cussing him out. I'm like, you were going to steal all 6 of these. I have his customer info already because he was a customer before. And I'm like, you're banned at all of our stores, and you two, and I pointed to the 2 friends that are off in the gaming table that came with them. I'm like, and you 2 are banned too. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, your friend was stealing these Funko Pops, so all 3 of you are fucking thieves. All 3 of you are banned. They're like, well, I didn't steal anything. I'm like, I don't care. You all came together. You're banned. Get out. And they're still trying to argue with me, where even my coworker's like, guys, get out. Just leave. They leave, and then the dad comes in. And he's pissed off. And he comes in and he's like, I'm an off-duty police officer and I want to know what my boys did because you were calling them thieves. And I was like, this guy over here stole these Funko Pops. I have it on camera. He's like, well, I want to see that footage. I'm like, right, absolutely. I got your footage. So I show him the footage and he's like, okay. He's like, I'll deal with him. It turns out that guy was
footage right here.
It turns out that guy was not his son. It was a friend of his 2 sons. So he's the dad of the 2 sons. He's like, okay, well, I will deal with him, but you called my boys thieves. I want to see where they stole something. I'm like, they all came together. They're all band together. They're all thieves together. That's how this works. And he's like, no, show me where they stole something. I'm like, they didn't steal anything, but they came in with this guy who stole almost $50 worth of product. At this point, it just happened to be great timing where the owner of the shop came in to deliver shipment. So I'm like, all right, you can talk to the owner right here if you want. So the owner talks to him, gives him the same spiel, tells the guy that actually stole the product, I don't want to see you at any of the stores ever. You're banned. I don't care. He saw the footage. He's like, and he told him, well, they didn't steal anything, so technically they're not banned. But, if you hang out with thieves like this, you're going to be bundled up with the crime. That's what's going to happen. And his dad said, well, I don't want you boys shopping here in the store because every time you come in here, he's going to look at you as thieves. And I'm like, yeah, I am. because you guys are hanging out together. He's like, from now on, shop elsewhere. And I'm like, yeah, please do shop elsewhere. I'm just on the corner over here. Like, yeah, don't. My favorite part of this story is after this was all said and done and they were out of here, the owner says, look, maybe don't cuss at them when that happens, but good job catching them. My coworker said, this is the equivalent of you're like the Harvey Bullock of retail managers of, I don't approve of your methods, but I like your results.
If they're really good friends and they're hanging all the time, they know that their friends steal stuff. It's like,
oh yeah.
It's like, and you approve of it. It's like, yeah, I approve of your methods and your results.
Thank you. And I'm sure Bobby loves the language too, because he tells people to run into traffic. So
oh yeah, I go off. I cuss at them all the time, especially if I know they're guilty. Like the most common is this freaking scrub ragamuffin walks in and they want to sell, Pokemon cards. And the Pokemon cards are from the most recent set, right? So Brilliant Stars. Let's just go with that one. Just came out a couple of weeks ago. So when they come up and they give me the cards, and this example ties to all instances, it's always the same. They give me the cards, and I ask for their ID. They say they don't have an ID, so that already lets me know that they got a suspended driver's license. Or if they do have it, I take it, right? Take the info in. But then I start talking to them. I'm like, "Oh, what deck do you play?" I don't really play. I just collect. Oh, okay. Man, these are some really good cards. How long have you had them? Where'd you get them? Oh man, I was digging through the garage. And I found these. These are all from 20 years ago, man. Oh, they were so much money. I'm like, oh, from 20 years ago, huh? He's like, yeah. So I give the cards back. Well, I don't give the cards back. I was like, come with me.
Step into my office.
Yeah, step into my office. So I stepped them right into my office outside the doors. And then I give them their cards back. And I was like, here's your cards from 20 years ago that released 2 weeks ago. Don't ever lie to me again. You're banned. Don't come back. Don't visit any of our stores. And if you do come back here, I'll call the police and have you trespassed. And then, of course, they started arguing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my kid's cards from, he'll be collecting them all his life. I'm like, no, you haven't, because these are brand new cards. So I don't care where you got them from, but I'm not going to buy them from you. So go to the pawn shop. There's a couple pawn shops down the street. Go down there. They'll give you some money for them.
Savage,
and of course,
just for lying.
And they start getting really disrespectful at that point, because before they're all nice, because they want to sell their stolen cards. So when they start cussing me, I just cuss them back. I was like, yeah, whatever. Go take it. You're not welcome here. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, I can. Well, who's the owner? I was like, I'm the owner. And then you get the tricky ones. They want to fight with you more and then call the owner. So I was like, oh, you can call the owner. So I give them the phone number. And these are the non-transients. These are more of just the thieves in general. So they go outside, and I've already kicked them out. They call the phone, and it's the business phone that I gave them. So I answer the phone, and they start complaining to me. So I'm still talking to them, but I don't say that it was me that just kicked them out. Let's have the same conversation, and they don't understand why the owner's so mean to them.
That's funny.
These make bad work days fun when you just abuse the people that are trying to abuse you. And unfortunately, I have to deal with it pretty often.
A good old rope-a-dope.
Oh yeah. I just like how they're standing outside on the phone, looking through the window, and I'm on the phone, and they don't make the connection that I'm just the same person that kicked them out. I love it.
I guess I've got one more that I'll share, because we'll finish off the Brocat block right after this, unless you've got a burning desire as far as a weird customer or a story you really want to tell. Anyone else?
I'm good.
All right, mine's a bathroom flooding story.
No.
Oh no.
Oh wait, if we're going to bathroom stores, I got a couple of those.
Oh, I bet.
All right, you go
I
for
got
Amber.
some too. I do have some.
I gotta head out, guys.
All right, Macio. Give them your socials real quick before you bounce.
Pretty much just Mac the Murder on Twitter. Fuck with me. I got IG, but I don't check it. So just check with me on Twitter and slide through the Discord. I'm on there. Same thing, Mac the Murder.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Macio. Thank you for being on 500.
Oh, for sure, man. And you guys have a good night.
You too.
You too. Bye.
Take care.
See you, Mace.
So this guy's using the restroom, and I hear a lot of flushing. The first flush, I don't hear the whoosh, and I'm like, okay, he's clogged it. And then he flushes it again, and that's when I hear of the water, I'm like, oh no. And then I hear him oh, in the bathroom kind of panicking. he comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, so your toilet's broken," and I'm like, "You clogged it," and I look, and there's shit and piss all over the floor, like of the bathroom, and it's just and all mixed up with the water, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta clean this up, and I'm like, all right, let me lock the door to the store because we're shut down at this point. I'm like, I'm shutting this store down, and I'm gonna clean this. I get to clean this up now. He's like, oh, it's my mess. Let me do it. I'm like, no, I got it. And he's like, no, here. And he's like, my hands are already dirty anyway. And I'm like, oh my God. And he grabs like the squeegee that I was using and the little mop, and he's just moving it around. Like he's not doing anything. Like he's never cleaned in his fucking life. And he does that for a little while, and then he's like, oh, all right. And I'm like, look, I'll just finish. Just please leave. And he's like, okay, sorry, man. I was like, do you want to wash your hands? He's like, no, I'm already nasty. It's fine. And he like bumbles down the store, and he's like, oh, you got X-Men comics. And he reaches, and I'm like, no, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything, please. Just go.
No.
And he's like, oh, all right, I'll come back another day. And I'm like, I'll open the door for you. And I open the door, and he leaves in his car, hands fucking filthy as shit, drives his car and fucking leaves. So I never saw him again that I remember seeing, but I had to clean all that disgusting shit up. I bleach bombed the floor in the whole bathroom. I told the owner, I'm like, this is what happened. The store's shut down for a couple hours while I clean all this up. And I also went to Planet Smoothie, and I bought myself an immunity smoothie because I'm like, I don't want to catch any fucking shit from any of this.
Ooh, E. coli.
Yeah, and that was the fucking worst right there. Just the fact that he wanted to then dig through right into my comics and shit. Like, no, don't touch a fucking thing.
Oh no, that's terrible. There's something about someone cleaning the toilet up after you use it that really, is a very vulnerable moment.
Dude had no shame, man. I guess he had some embarrassment by saying, I will clean, but it's like, you're not doing anything. You're wasting time.
Oh no.
Bobby, you got a one bathroom story you want to share before we close this out?
Yeah. So mine, very similar. The person was identified. So we had this was at my other store, and this is why I have so much disdain for RPG players. So they're playing D&D, and they always make a mess with their damn food, always. But this mother-son combo, for some reason, they're just so odd, off the wall. We're busy as hell. It's like a Saturday afternoon, or maybe it might have been a Sunday, I can't remember. And the lady comes up to the counter, and she's like, I'm so sorry. Mind you, this is an older lady. She's like, I'm so sorry. I had an accident in the bathroom, and I'm so sorry. We're like, what? What happened? Is the toilet clogged? She's like, no, my diaper broke, and it just made a mess. I'm like, okay. So what does she do? She goes back down and sits and plays.
Oh.
So we go to the bathroom. I shit you not, and that's a pun. It looked like somebody took balloons full of shit and threw them into the wall in different spots.
Oh.
I have no idea how this was even possible.
Wow.
But she shit all over the place, but not into the toilet. It just went everywhere. So needless to say, we had to clean that bathroom for hours on end. And she had the nerve, at least she came and told us, but she had the nerve to just sit there and keep playing her D&D session.
I guess maybe what happened was that the diaper kind of like flipped back, and she's like, oh no, did it not like go all the way off? And then she like spins around to like look at the toilet to see if it was in there.
Mike,
at the speed of Sonic,
you,
like a fucking Sonic Dash.
It was on the left and back of the walls up high. Like it's almost impossible. I don't even know how that's possible. So, but it was everywhere.
It's like she dropped it from the ceiling or something. Like took her diaper and just dropped it from the ceiling. And
or just throwing it in circles, doing like what is that? What you do in the Olympics where you swing in circles with the.
Where you like throw the really heavy ball and you swing around and you throw it. And see
that's exactly what happened in that bathroom. There was shit everywhere.
How was she clean after that? Like, did she have shit stains on her?
I don't know. I don't care. But we threw that chair away. We didn't even clean it. We just threw that
Good.
chair away
Yeah.
after the end of the night. Real quick, here's another one for you. I was working at Office Depot, and I had it like at that store. You have to stand like near the front door. They call it the expert standing on the X. You got to kind of guide the rest of the staff throughout the store, letting them know where people come in and what they're looking for, whatever. So I'm standing there doing that one night, and this is on. I was working at the West Colonial store, so near Ocoee Winter Garden area. So it's a rough area. So I'm standing there. It's evening time. This lady comes in with her son. She needs to send a fax. So she's sending the fax over in that area, over in the office section. So I'm still standing there by the front door, whatever, minding my own business, waiting for people to walk in. So the kid's like running around. He just keeps making laps down the aisles. He then comes in front of me. And mind you, we just got our floors had just been carpeted. So we got a brand new carpeted floor and it's a remodeled store. He stops after he's been running around. He just stops. I don't know, he's like 3-4 years old. I think he's like 4. He drops his pants, takes a dump, pulls his pants up, and runs away again.
He
Like,
Walmarted.
Literally right in front of me. He just dropped his drawers, bent over, dropped a deuce, and then ran away. And this only took him like 12 seconds. It didn't take long at all.
Well, you start pushing before you pull your pants down.
No,
It was just it's a one fluid motion.
he dropped a nice swirly right there on the floor. And of course, I went over to his mother, and she picked him up by one arm and started slapping the crap out of him. And then she didn't even finish this fax, just left.
Wow.
Like, you couldn't even clean this up.
Wow.
He's like a marathon runner. You know, that's what they do when they hit like mile 8 or whatever. What is it? They pull their shorts aside and shit just comes out and they keep
just
going.
go and they keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Wow.
He's going to be a great marathon runner one day for sure.
He's just living to his full potential already. That's all it was.
He's practicing early
I
on.
don't thought for anything when I'm getting.
I thankfully have not had anything that bad happen. I have had people who throw coffee grounds in the bathroom sink or in the trash can and it just spills everywhere. Somebody was getting ready for a date in the bathroom. I didn't witness it, but I heard about it. Was getting ready for a date, just had hair everywhere. Just left it. Yeah, stuff like that. It just sometimes you walk in and you're just like, what happens? What happened in here? So nothing that bad. But now that we've talked about it, it's going to happen. So
Of course.
You don't get, with all the transients you have, you don't get transient sink baths?
I do get some of those. So we did actually have one woman who used to come in. I haven't seen her in a while. She used to bathe in the sink, but I mean, she always cleaned up after herself. Like I was really impressed. But I'm pretty sure she peed on the floor one day. So, I mean, that happened like in the lobby. So, but most of the time they clean up after. Like I said, the biggest thing is just, sometimes they'll make their own coffee and dump the grounds everywhere. And they have to tell them, please stop or don't come back. So that's exciting.
Well, you're lucky, PALPAKELLI, that you haven't had to deal with some of the.
No, well, yeah, but now
Girl
that we
shit.
talked about it, it's going to happen.
Well, it's a what do you call it? It's a coronation of sorts.
An initiation.
Yeah.
You got to go through it once.
You
Yeah.
You do.
That's
I've had a lot of couples locking themselves in the bathroom to take care of business.
Wow.
Oh,
no.
really?
That's the worst. I hate that. And I catch them. You always catch them too, because somebody goes to open the door and it's locked, and it's like, why the hell's the door locked? And then you obviously you hear them scurrying, and it's like you bang on the door, and then guess what? 2 people come out.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you
It's
work?
romantic, right? What a
next
date.
time that happens, you should be like, a lady, her diaper broke in there once.
Yeah.
Just kill them.
Imagine like that happening in one stall, and the next stall, someone's like spinning around with their diaper half open. Someone in the crowd flies over the top and hits one of them in the face while they're getting it
How
on.
romantic.
Oh Jesus!
How romantic.
Here we got the
Like-
we got
He's like, joke's on you. That's my kink.
Right. That's why we're here.
we've got the 500 title already. It's diapers.
God. Well, when next time Bobby or some of the other Broquette co-hosts are on, I will dive into some more stories because I know Bobby for sure has more than this, and I definitely do. We'll save those for a future day. Let us know on the other side if you enjoyed these retail stories. We'll include them on the Broquette block until we're out of them, or interesting customer stories. I haven't even touched on that yet, and I have plenty of those oddball, especially working at the comic shop. You get some weirdos for sure. But I do want to thank all of you, Macio as well. I know he left a little bit early, but I want to thank him again, and Bobby, Millennial Mike, and PALPAKELLI. and also the rest of the co-hosts and other guests that we've had throughout the years for helping make up these 500 episodes that we've done over the last over 9 years. We're going to hit 10 years in September. A little tease, we will have a new 10-year anniversary logo that will debut in September. And I'm very excited to show that off. Got commissioned, and then I went in and I made some tweaks and changes to it, and I finalized it. And I'm like, shit, I can't show this to anyone until fucking September. Like, I'm so excited.
It.
You did see it.
I've
yeah, you
seen
did.
it. Yeah.
How dare you?
Some
Artistic
input.
integrity.
I just saw a poster of your old logo. Like, what the heck, man?
Sorry. Thank you for your contribution.
I guess I'll have to have one for every 10 years, every 10-year anniversary,
That's right. But honestly, sincerely, thank you to everyone, to PALPAKELLI, to Bobby, Millennial Mike, all the co-hosts, Macio, because without you guys, we wouldn't have hit 500. Honestly, it wouldn't have happened without PALPAKELLI at the very beginning. Throughout most of these episodes, there would be no show. So thank you, PALPAKELLI, as well, and to each of you. I really do appreciate it. It's a hobby that I really enjoy still, and that I'm grateful that I can still keep this up each week. And I don't do this alone. I do this with you guys. So thank you.
Hey, glad to be here.
Of course, always fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great, and kudos to you for continuing to push. I know longtime Brokettes know that we have all these great hosts because, I was doing it majority with you and then stepped away to do other things. So I am grateful to everyone who comes on and helps support you, and even for you for all the coordination that it takes and getting some. I mean, I had a lot of fun. So some really fun people on here to keep this going.
And it takes multiple different guests to make up for what PALPAKELLI was doing, and then and not even then, is it gonna really replace PALPAKELLI?
Thanks. I'm gonna come on here more often. You guys are great. You can keep going. It's fine.
But go ahead and let them know as well, your socials, where they can find you. We'll start off with Millennial Mike and tell them about the other podcasts you do.
The best place to find me is at my, on Twitter through my podcasts, my actual podcast accounts. That'll be at The Exiles Net, which is the Exiles Network podcast handle, or at Ronin Council, which is the Ronin Council podcast handle for, The Exiles Net's more just kind of whatever, any entertainment, movies, games, TV. Ronin Council's more anime, Japanese related kind of content. You can find me at vero.co/Millennial Mike. You can find me on Discord as well, but we don't ever share a Discord handle because Discord's weird with handles. But yeah join the Reason I'm Broke Discord channel, and I'm on there mostly. So that's where you'll find me, and subscribe to his Patreon so you can get the juicy details, the juicy arguments, and all the weird stuff we're talking about in there.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. There is a Patreon exclusive board on our Discord. And yeah, if you're not a part of that, you do miss out on quite a bit. Just being honest here. Bobby, please let them know where they can find you and continue.
You can find me on Twitters. I'm on the Twitters. I don't use it much, but it's there. I will respond to you if you tag me. It's at Cuban Slim. That's QBANSLIM. And I'm on all the other socials, but I don't use them, so it's not even worth looking. And of course, Discord. So feel free to join that Discord. Always available. We pop off on there all the time. And like Mike said, for as little as $1 a month or less, you can get access to that VIP lounge. And we have some really active discussions in there. So if you are on the Discord and just in the regular Brokette lounge, help support this show on the Patreon. You get access to that channel and get some more lively conversations if that's something you're into. It's a lot of fun. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. And also you contributed to the Collector's Corner. So reminder, if you collect TCG, comics, anything like that, you can share it on Discord, and we will sometimes be jealous of your pickups, or sometimes we'll give advice too there's a lot of questions there about CGC. I just put that one up about the Tree Frog TCG CGC submission thing. So if you are a collector, make sure to also join that Collector's Corner of the Discord. And PALPAKELLI, where can they find you?
Reading a book somewhere, probably.
It's called porn. Porn books.
Listen, they are romance novels. Thank you. So I am on Twitter and Instagram at PALPAKELLI. Kelly is spelled with an I, Kelli. Don't use them too often. So if you really need to get a hold of me, reach out to @Reasons I'm Broke, and then he will say, "Hey, did you see this?" And I'll say, "Probably not." But I don't really use social media. I do a lot of reading for anybody who doesn't know. So I just be on the lookout for a cool looking person reading a Kindle, and that's me.
I'm all Kindle readers.
Yeah, listen, all of them, every single one. You'd be like, "You Kelly?" And then my face will morph. It's like the Matrix. I'm like, yeah, it's perfect.
And to you on the other side, if you want to find the link on everywhere you can find us, just head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com, and there you will find the Discord link. And also to our t-shirts. Millennial Mike was talking about the banner that he bought at thereasonsimbroke.com. Go to merch, and it will link you to our TeePublic storefront, and that's where we just put up the state logo designs, and those were for the top 3 most downloaded U.S. states for the podcast, being Florida, California, and New York. And if you are a Patreon backer and your state is not up there, it's not one of those 3, let me know and I will make a design for you to be represented as well in your state. So that's once again at thereasonsimbroke.com. But thank you all once again so much for joining us for episode number 500. And if you've been there throughout from 1 to 500 and everywhere in between, I've been Daniel, joined by Macio, Millennial Mike, Bobby, and PALPAKELLI. Broke at core, all will be well.
So I'm curious, in this collector's corner, I collect books and plants. Can I share those? Will they be well received?
Yes, we will judge your porn corner. Please post it.
I only have quality books, thank you. Only hardcovers.
You don't have a
That's
smut
fun
with
right
the
there.
Fabio on the front and all that long hair, none of that?
Oh, okay. I did get sucked into this. I'm sorry. I did 2 of those books.
I don't even know what that is. I'm not sure I want to know.
It was a TikTok thing. They were on sale, like buy one get one at Target, and I was like, I have to.